It's Matt Spatz from Spatz and Amanda, mornings on 97.5 WONE. And on the morning of Thursday, August 15th, I, like so many other people, woke up to the news of yet another senseless act of violence. And this time happening right here in our own backyard. That was the night of August 14th was the night of the shooting at the drive-thru at Taco Bell on Graham Road in Stowe. Those kinds of things never happen at Stowe, right? Just hit so close to home. Doesn't matter where you live, whether you're a parent, not a parent. But we lost a wonderful young lady just shy of her 26th birthday, Megan Keleman. And this is yet just another incident that speaks to a number of issues, societal issues right now, where we ask why, where we ask how. And joined by Megan's family, her mother Kelly, her father Nick, and her brother Matthew. And I know I can speak for everybody to say that we were horrified, couldn't believe yet another story like this. And we can't imagine what you guys are going through right now. So our hearts certainly go out to all of you.
Thank you.
I think the first issue that we addressed, and I know, Nick, this is something you and I, from speaking previously, want everybody to know this is certainly not an attack on the Second Amendment. But as we now know, maybe didn't know right at the beginning, but this gunman is someone who had a warrant out, was legally barred from having a firearm. How does this happen?
It's a good question. And just from the 30,000 feet that we're at and the information we're getting in currently, it's amazing that how legislators have dropped the ball in enforcing laws or promoting common sense laws, red flag laws. It's amazing how our judicial system has failed us. It's just out of Megan's illustration. There's a few recently that have occurred with, he have a child, went in custody of a mentally ill person. Should never happened. There's no, with mental health, there's a big gap in helping these people. We're not condoning the fact of what this individual did because he had mental illness. He needed help. Clearly needed help. And it was not available. The judge, the court system should have realized on the red flags that they would have had the information at the hearing. Should have realized this person was having issues. He was showing suicidal tendencies, driving around drinking with a loaded weapon on the front seat of your car. We know there's an intent there. The intent was he was not stable. He wanted to take his life. And unfortunately, these are the circumstances we're in. People that are mentally ill shouldn't have firearms. People that have had prior red flag, like domestic violence, shouldn't have guns. There needs to be something with gun license. You get it once. The main intent of a gun is to kill people or to kill something. We have cars. Big responsibility. Everybody has a car. Guns, big responsibility. Yes, we have the Second Amendment. However, with an amendment or a law, there's a privilege and there's a lot of responsibility. If you're not responsible to operate a vehicle, if you're not responsible to function in society, what makes you have the right to have a gun? These are questions we're all wrestling with. This individual, if the proper things, common sense things would have been in place, he would have got the help he needed. So you're looking at a family here whose legacy is, he's the brother of a murdered sister. We're the parents of a murdered daughter. Horrible. Look at this family. We feel sorry for this family because their legacy is, my loved one's a murderer. How do you think that family feels right now? We feel for that family. They're going through a horrific thing of their own. They're kind of forgotten about because of, unfortunately, the bad thing this individual did. So the community as a whole, everybody, needs to look at this example, and there's many other examples out there like this, and say, hey, this has got to stop. You have both sides of the pendulum. The victim's family and the perpetrator's family. They're hurting. We're hurting. The community is hurting, and something needs to be done. We need legislators that are going to wake up and realize, that could have been my daughter. So that's kind of what we're wrestling with right now. We know, unfortunately, that she's gone, and there's nothing we could do about that. But our faith in all this has really carried us through this. I know I don't want to come across as trying to preach or anything, but we feel that it's a spiritual war that happened out there. Megan was on the front line spreading the glory of our Lord and Savior. And unfortunately, this individual's heart was so hardened that, the devil got in his heart and unfortunately, didn't like what Megan was doing. And that's a whole other conversation for something else. But that's how we're convicted. We have hope that, we can carry on through this. It's a terrible tragedy, but we want the community to also see that, hey, this situation is different because for the fact that there were so many things that could have stopped this.
I think something that you said so importantly, two words that seems like in society we don't have a lot, common sense. Again, this goes back to we understand people's rights, we understand amendments, the Constitution, but there's not a lot of common sense. And it seems like there's a lot of excuses. I know we're in a big election year. And again, that's not to point a finger one way or the other, take a side, because there's a lot of people to blame at fault for all of this. And I'm going to assume, I know that's never a good thing to do, but this is probably an organization you weren't familiar with until these last few weeks. But an event that is coming up on September the 14th, 2024 at Harmony Church in Uniontown. It's called Guns to Gardens, correct?
Yes.
Can you fill us in, Kelly, more of what the mission of what Guns to Gardens is?
Okay, so the background story is that Megan and I were supposed to go see Avril Lavigne. Avril Lavigne was the first concert that I took my daughter to see. And this was when Avril was just starting out. And it was at South Park Mall, and it was the year 2004. I took Megan out of school, and we went and saw our first concert together. And it was just an awesome time for us. So 20 years later, Avril Lavigne is coming to Blossom. And I saw it in the paper, and I said, oh, Megan, I'm like, we got to go. We got to go and celebrate. I had been, kind of distracted, working a lot. And I was really trying to make some time for her and I just to spend some time together. And so we were really looking forward to it. And it's this Friday. I had never, spent a lot of money on tickets. And I was like, you know what? We're going all out. It's girls' night out. We're going to enjoy ourselves. So, of course, I'm not tech savvy. So Megan, of course, had to order the tickets for us, and she got them. And we were so looking forward to this time together. Unfortunately, Megan's no longer with me. So we had decided to go ahead and auction the tickets off. I reached out to WONE and told you my story. And we wanted the funds to go to a good cause in Megan's honor. And it's just by, I don't know how, things kind of happen for a reason, I feel. And this a church nearby was actually sponsoring Guns to Gardens. And it's an organization, it's nationwide. This church is sponsoring it, and people can come anonymously and just drop off their guns. And the guns are actually cut up, and eventually off-site they are melted down and they are turned into garden tools.
So I think it's important to mention that this is a safe surrender. Yes. Again, it happens on Saturday, September the 14th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Harmony Springs Church in Uniontown. You just drive up. You don't need a name. You don't need an ID, nothing. The firearms just need to be unloaded.
Right.
My understanding is somebody will take them right out of the car for you. No questions asked. Mm-hmm. Whatever firearm it is that you would want to give up, they'll take it. And like you said, they'll melt it down and turn it into a gardening tool. So it's one organization's way, and they do, as you said, it's a national organization. This isn't a local event that just happens to be happening here. So it came together, and it was certainly meant to be.
Yes.
That I think that this organization, I know something else, I believe, Nick, you were the one that said you just don't want Megan to be a murder statistic.
Correct.
That she will live on and away, and I think this is the first step in her living on to good.
Mm-hmm.
WONE.net. We actually have a link there to this event, so you can find out more. You can make a donation right there. Megan Keleman, you can donate in her name. While the auction is still going for the Avril Lavigne tickets, you can make a bid to try to go. I think it would be great if a mother and a daughter got to go to their first concert. I think that would be absolutely amazing. Mm-hmm. So if you want to make a bid for the auction, if you just want to make a donation, you can do that at WONE.net. Just to reset, we have the parents of Megan Keleman, who was killed senselessly, that act of violence at the drive-thru at Taco Bell on Graham Road on August the 14th, Kelly and Nick, and Megan's brother, Matthew. You mentioned, Nick, about mental illness. I think any of us that read the news, heard the news on that Thursday morning after the incident occurred, just out of human nature, it was our thought, something's got to be wrong with that guy. I think that's just what we naturally do. And I think sometimes maybe we use that too loosely in society. We just assume, and almost kind of like it's a stigma. Mm-hmm. Something that Nick, you and I had spoke about previously was Kevin Love a few years ago when he was still playing for the Cavaliers, mm-hmm. and said, I need to take a step away from basketball. And I'm sure many of us went, what are you, a wuss? You're an NBA basketball player with a $120 million contract. And you got the looks that, you know, the ladies, most of them kind of like you. What possibly could be wrong with your life?
Yeah.
We need to certainly not brush that off. And hopefully Kevin has brought some of that to the forefront. So the thought that we all had about this gunman, you did find that to be the case, that there were some issues. Mm-hmm. How quickly after the incident did you guys find that out?
Almost immediately, from resources we're leveraging privately, and some of the media people we deal with. There's a lot of public information out there. So the thing that really disturbed us, he had a cry for help in January. Okay, gets pulled over in March. Okay. Pulled over in April. Okay, he needed help. No help out there. And who does? A normal, rational person does not do this. They don't. So this is the whole idea that there's mental health out there. You know, a lot of people in their ivory towers are preaching mental health. What are you doing about it? We don't have the resources. I don't mean to step on my soapbox here. You raise our taxes every freaking year. What are you doing with the money? I work on my income based on what I make annually, and I budget accordingly. Do something with the money. Cut the nonsense out. Do something with the money. Have human resources financially, people-wise, whatever. Get the resources out there to get these people to have help. The resources out there now are very limited. They're probably saying the same thing. We need more help. Please, get the help out there. These legislators need to look at this, because I guarantee you, we've talked about this. If this would have happened to the two people that are running for president, this would happen to our governor, if this would happen to our senators, you darn well know there would be something going on immediately, because they have the leverage and power to do it. People like us, and before us, don't have a voice. I'm hoping now we could be a voice for those who don't have that voice or weren't able to do that. And that's something Megan always did. Megan stood up for people who did not have a voice or couldn't say anything. So now we're being her voice for those out there that have had this happen to them, and probably going to happen in the future, that, hey, no, there needs to be help for these people. And I'll go back to the family of this individual. He needed help, and I'm sure they were aware of it. What did they need to do? I have no idea if they realized it, or maybe they didn't know what to do. They had no direction to go to. So that's the whole thing. We need more awareness, not just superficial, virtual signaling. I'm for mental health. Okay, what are you doing about it?
That's the point. I think, and not to put words in people's mouths, but like even police officers, when they see someone like this, who they're even going, well, this person probably has some mental issues right now. There's only so much they can be trained on.
Absolutely.
And where do they go? The courts have long said we don't want to put them in a general jail, general prison, because they need the help. I think what you're saying, and I agree, the time is now. We need to find that place. We can't keep saying, we need to figure this out. We need to figure this out. No, we need to figure this out. And it's probably not exactly the same, but I believe I saw an organization that Megan worked with, Shelter Care. What exactly was that?
So you could chime in, both of you, because, you know, I go on a stream of unconsciousness consciously. But so Shelter Care helps at-risk youths. They provide counseling. They provide resources. They provide, if they're homeless, they provide them shelter. They provide, you know, a place to help them get their lives on track. And the irony with this whole situation is it all starts at a young age, mental health, based on the environment they're in, based on the family conditions they live in, you know. And some of these kids aren't loved because the parents don't want them, foster home don't want them, something happens, there's a disconnect somewhere. So what this organization does, they provide resources, shelter, housing, food, counseling, and love.
Especially love.
So they don't go down the path of disarray that this individual did, not knowing how to cope with things. They give them the resources that, hey, I can work through this. They get them at a younger age, knowing, hey, there's mental health resources out there to help me on my journey to be a productive, loving, compassionate citizen in society. It's that simple. Not hard. Common sense, right?
Common sense.
So that's what she was doing. She was helping this nonprofit provide help.
And that is obviously the terrible irony, that she was helping people like this particular gunman at an earlier age. Maybe that's one more way that she's speaking and making her mark, though, bringing attention to it. I know that's no consolation, and I certainly don't mean it as such. But I know that it's important. Again, I'll say it again, that you guys don't want her to just be some statistic.
No.
Just absolutely senseless, horrible situation. How are you feeling in all of this, brother?
Well, I guess what I've been kind of telling to everyone is it's not, you know, that I just lost my sister. I lost my only sibling. So, you know, it's been a process, you know, navigating kind of what it's like to kind of be an only child, but also navigating how to continue my sister's legacy. So my girlfriend, her name's Raina, we were talking and she had organized a GoFundMe, which has been going around to continue my sister's legacy, knowing that she was a giving person, gave back to the community, but also that education was important to her. She was a recent MBA recipient at Cleveland State University. So education was very important to her. So we decided a scholarship fund could be the perfect way to honor her. So we've been working with that. The funds, you know, would go to Cleveland State University and the Engineering Academy, which is a part of the 6th District Educational Compact, which her and I both attended at Theodore Roosevelt High School, which is in Kent, Ohio. So, you know, the donations will be going to a good cause in both those programs that Megan loved. But yeah, I mean, it's obviously, you know, heartbreaking, you know, to, you know, lose a sibling. And I hope no one else has to go through that. And that's why, you know, I'm with my family beside my parents, you know, and standing for this change to happen, because no one should have to experience what I'm going through and what my parents are going through. And the unfortunate reality is it going to take everyone to lose their daughter, to lose their sister, to lose their loved one for there to be change? Or, you know, can we see the story of Megan Keleman and the countless other people in our country and finally, you know, say enough is enough? I don't know what it's going to take. I don't want it to take that, because no one should have to lose their Megan. It's just not fair.
And I look at you, Matthew, and what I see is hope. You and your generation, mom and dad and me, old people like us, sometimes we're always stuck in our ways. I think one of the best things that's going on in our society right now are millennials and Gen Z and Gen Y and all the different generations that we probably don't even know what the difference between them are.
Yeah.
Much more open, much more accepting of people, whether it's transgender communities to mental health. When I see you, I see an age group, and that's why I'm sure you have friends as well and contemporaries, classmates who see the travesty in this. We actually, you've spent so much of your life leaning on the old people. I think in times like these, we need to start leaning on you and your generation to make this change. I mean, you've heard your dad. I'm sure your mom feels the same way. I've said it as well. Enough talk about stuff. You guys and younger are certainly generations of action. So that's where I see hope in all this. Just want to reiterate again, the organization is Guns to Gardens, and the actual Safe Surrender event is going to happen at Harmony Springs. That's the church on South Arlington in Uniontown on Saturday, September 14th, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Again, I said Safe Surrender. You just drive through with your guns. They don't need an ID. You don't need to give your name. The weapons just need to be unloaded. They will take them from your vehicle. Ultimately, they will melt them down and turn them into gardening tools. It is a national organization that does events around the country. Just so happening here, again, sadly, exactly 1 month to the date of the loss of Megan Keleman in that terrible, senseless act of violence, the drive-through lane at Taco Bell in Stowe. I know we're all familiar with that story. All of us that morning, there was just a knot in our stomachs. Again, I'm a father of 4. But I know even people that don't have any children can understand the severity and the senselessness of this. Again, not only between senseless gun violence, no attack on the Second Amendment, but also mental health. Now's the time to step up and figure this out somehow. So we look to you in future generations. I feel honored and blessed that you all have come into my life. Under the worst circumstances, obviously. Your strength, your courage, your inspiration.
Thanks, brother.
Keep doing it.
Thanks.
Keep doing it.
Thank you. I just have one more thing I want to say, and we had an aside before our prior conversation. Parents, don't take your kids for granted. You got to hold them closer. If you become estranged with your kids, whatever the discourse was, reconcile that. Because you don't want to have any what-ifs. At least our family, we have no what-ifs with Megan. It wasn't a situation where I got in an argument with her and she stormed off. And I'm like, holy cow, she's dead. I can't apologize to her. We've never had any regrets with our kids. Never. Never. So don't have any regrets because life is a vapor. You have no idea when it's going to come. But just don't have any regrets with your children, please. It's a plea from the Kelemans.
Again, Guns to Gardens, September 14th. All the information, make a donation in the name of Megan Keleman at WONE.net. Thank you very much.